What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Thursday night football edition of our NFL Showdown breakdown here at Fantasy Sports Insight. Again, I appreciate everybody that is showing support for our channel. If you have not subscribed, please do that. That is greatly helpful. Even that thumbs up helps a ton. Throw us a comment. We are super excited to bring you DFS content for free every single day. You can also check out our premium Discord channels at fsidfs.com. But let's get into this COVID-ridden slate. Remember, I am going to use that 3-2-1 format again, so be listening for that. 3 cash optimal plays, 2 of my favorite values, and my biggest fade of the slate. So let's get into it. This slate is Green Bay at San Francisco. Let's pull up the odds really quick here. But we do have Green Bay being a pretty massive favorite here. 7.5-point favorite on the road in the NFL. That's pretty substantial. And we will get into the injuries here in a second. But I think that is a pretty telling tale sign here that Green Bay should run over San Francisco here, mainly based on the injuries. And then you'll see when we're building that you likely are going to be stacking quite a bit from the Green Bay side. So let's move over to our Draftkings screen. I'm just going to kind of in general talk about, I'm going to tell you who's out and then kind of some of the important parts that it impacts. So here's our laundry list of injuries here. We have George Kittle out. Williams out, Mostert, Ayuk, who was the latest that was added to this report for the Niners. Deebo Samuel, Lazard, Wilson, Bourne, Garoppolo, Coleman, likely Jordan Reed, and A.J. Dillon. So the list is long. Like the Niners literally have no receivers and don't have George Kittle. So that will get into some of our value and potential plays. It does leave Mullins at quarterback, which I don't know, in a way could be cash viable, but I don't really see a great path for him to do well with starting receivers like Trent Taylor in the slot and potentially Richie James and the former West Virginia first-round pick, Kevin White, who has not been able to do anything in the NFL. So those are your 3 receivers that you are looking for tonight for the Niners. Kevin White, Richie James, and Trent Taylor. I think, they're all super cheap, but I think Trent Taylor, I guess maybe being in the slot might just have a little bit more of a floor. But let's get into the slate. So as you'll see, my top 3 cash optimal plays are going to be the top 3 for Green Bay. It's not really any surprise here. Devonte Adams, 12,400, Aaron Rodgers, 11,000, and Aaron Jones, 9,800. I think you do, if Aaron Jones is in, which right now he's a game time questionable call, you do everything in your mind to get those 3 guys in your lineup. You don't really have a lot to pay for in the middle, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, but those 3 guys you need to prioritize. If Jones is out, then you probably are considering Mullins or one of the running backs for San Francisco, just because you have so much salary to use. It's not because I love San Francisco's passing attack in this matchup, because their passing attack is my fade here. My fade is using Mullins with any of these horrible receivers. Now, saying that, if Aaron Jones is out, I think it's going to be a path that you might use because you have the salary and he's going to be on the field the whole game and will have the ball in his hand. So always gives a higher opportunity for fantasy points. So let's continue down here on the slate. Like I said, Devonte Adams, obviously just an absolute monster when he's healthy. 12,400 is a pretty insane price tag, but like I said, relative to the injuries and everything else we're worrying about on this slate, he's worth every penny. Same with Aaron Rodgers at 11,000. Excuse me. I wouldn't even bat an eye of fading him. I think the ownerships on those two guys are going to be like 80, 90%. Same with Aaron Jones if he's in, because you can still easily, if you're building something with these three, you're looking at obviously not too much left per player. But when we get into the guys that are all dead minimum price tag, it makes it fairly easy. I do want to point out next, obviously I talked about Mullins. He played well last game. I think he had 17 DK. Yeah, 17 and a half DK against Seattle. I don't know. I think just like I said, with the receiving core he's going to have for this game, it's going to be pretty brutal, pretty hard for him to do much at that price tag. But again, saying that, if you go back to our builder here and say you use Mullins, you can still make it work. You can still play two guys that are mega cheap. So Mullins is not necessarily off the board, but just their passing game in general, I am not too excited about. Now, the running back situation here for San Francisco, Tevin Coleman will be out, so it is going to be Jerick McKinnon and Hasty. I am preferring in this in a vacuum, Hasty at 7,200 being cheaper. He is the one who's getting a majority of the carries. They just, for some reason, don't want to give McKinnon any carries anymore. So I think McKinnon obviously has more upside receiving the ball. And actually, I could see him being used as like a slot receiver if they need it. So McKinnon is definitely in play at 8,000. So I don't know. The price difference leans me towards Hasty. The game script leans me towards McKinnon, and the fact that Mullins will have no buddy to throw to. So let's move down on this slate. Tanyan is fine at 6,400. I'm not really landing there much. Packers defense, I think, is actually viable here. They've been pretty awful in terms of DFS, but for 5,200 against a team that's going to be a lot of practice squad players, I think it is definitely in play, and a backup quarterback. Dwelly will be the starting tight end for San Francisco. Mason Crosby always in play. 4,000 is actually really nice price tag. Robbie Gould, Robbie Gould and the Niners D. I'm not really. I just don't really like a lot of 49ers players here. So moving now to some guys that will be playing down here. Tyler Irvin. If Aaron Jones is out, I do think Tyler Irvin. I think Tyler Irvin's a phenomenal play either way, because I think if Aaron Jones is in, I think Irvin will be his spell. Not that that's anything really a lot to talk about, because quite honestly, Aaron Jones, if he's playing, will likely be out on the field the entire game, which he already was a very high usage running back in games that like Jamal Williams was out. So the other running back for Green Bay that is going to be activated here is going to be Dexter Williams, who is coming off of the practice squad. Again, we don't really have a lot of data on him. Would be pretty GPP only for me if I know that Tyler Irvin would be likely ahead of him. So Tyler Irvin is one of my favorite value plays, along with Trent Taylor, who I think will be kind of lead the line as a receiver for San Francisco. Has got at least the most experience playing in these types of games in the slot. So I think at 400, I think 5 to 10 points is definitely viable. The other one I mentioned was Richie James. He's 200. Again, we don't know a lot about him. He's listed as questionable. Kevin White could potentially see some of the field as well. So this is a slate, like, even though some of the builds seem chalky, or not chalky, like the top four, if somebody uses Mullins, or if they use a combination of the running backs or both running backs, I don't think there's going to be a lot of chops for GPPs on this slate, just because these min-price players, I think people are going to intermix them. And I think that there's not really a clear sign that Irvin is going to be like, say Aaron Jones is out. Irvin has played more than Williams, but who's to say that Williams won't take, first and second down, and then Irvin's going to be the guy catching the balls out of the backfield. And then if Aaron Jones is in, obviously, I think that takes away the value of both Tyler Irvin and Dexter. Probably makes Dexter Williams almost obsolete, honestly. But yeah, so that's kind of where I think you can go. You could always punt with Juszczyk, and hopefully for that rushing touchdown, maybe a short little catch off of a play action. But other than that, I think, if you're dumpster diving down there, which I totally get it, because there's going to be some implied value just on opportunity cost. So just to recap, my top 3 favorite plays, cash plays, Devonte Adams, Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Jones. If Aaron Jones is out, that pivot would be to Mullins and or one of the running backs for San Francisco. My biggest fade here is just the Niners in general. Honestly, it's the passing game, the running game. I don't like the Niners, but I would just say, even though Mullins is playable, the fact that he's got no really starting receivers that actually play on a consistent basis is pretty brutal. And then my 2 favorite values would be Tyler Irvin, depending on the status of Aaron Jones, and Trent Taylor, the one slot pass catcher for the Niners. Yeah, I think the slate's going to come down to, if Aaron Jones is in, you can still fit Mullins, McKinnon, or Hasty. And depending on where that gets you in the rest of your builds, if you can get up to Mason, if you can play like one of the minimum price players, but still get up to someone like Mason Crosby, I think that might be a path that a lot of people will go in cash. Again, let's make sure you're monitoring the status of Aaron Jones. That will tell a lot for the entire slate. And just kind of, I don't know, enjoy the slate. I think it's a slate that if you want to multi-enter some GPP lineups to mix in some of that insane dead minimum value, I think it's a slate you can do it. And obviously, keep your eye on the game as a whole. We might not even. I might be recording this right now, and by midday today, the game could be postponed just due to more positive COVID-19 cases. So again, if you have not hit that subscribe button below, please do that. I appreciate it. Come again and keep listening to our awesome content at Fantasy Sports Insight.